Hello everyone, Simon here. Welcome back to the architecture of Hitman, World of Assassination. Today we are on a farm in Colorado somewhere. Not exactly sure where in Colorado we are, although if we look out in the distance, there are mountains pretty much in every direction. Alright, so Colorado. We have United States, right? And then here, this is Colorado, right? In Colorado, like this part is the mountain part. We've got the like plains part and the mountains part, right? And I was looking around for a bit. I could not figure out where exactly we are. Can we zoom in? Like Aspen, Colorado? What does this look like, right? I mean... Well, I can't see past the trees. But there kind of is mountains all over the place. Maybe we can like move out of Aspen a little bit. What did I click on? Aspen? Let me just move out a little bit. No, there's pine trees. So the issue with pine trees is that we might be too high up. As in like elevation-wise. We might be too high up in the mountains. The place we're in might be a bit lower. I was looking up at this earlier. So like Denver is there, right? Can we just see like what it looks like from Denver? Don't have a street view there. Highlands Ranch? Okay, so this is Denver. We're definitely not inside the city because the inside of the city looks like this. It's very American. I was looking a bit earlier. So here we have Buena Vista, which basically means good view, right? And if we get into Buena Vista somewhere around... If I can... click on like maybe there, and we look around. Oh, here we go. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and there's kind of like mountains in every direction. Look at that. So this seems kind of similar, except it's quite dry. I don't know if that's just the season, or if it's always this dry in this location. The location we're in the game is somewhat more damp. And there's more water. There's a river over there. We'll see that later. So we're somewhere in Colorado. Not really sure where, but a lot of Colorado looks similar anyway. It's just kind of like plains and mountains in the distance, and that's more or less Colorado. It's entirely possible that, like all the other maps so far, all the other locations in the game so far, it could just be like a fictional location with a Colorado flavor. Right, just like Bangkok was like Thailand flavor, and not exactly Bangkok, and like Paris was kind of like Paris flavor, but the actual location in Paris didn't have that chateau. So maybe it's the same thing here. Like it's not an actual farm in Colorado; it's just a farm with Colorado flavor. So maybe there's not anywhere. But anyway, if you go to Colorado, into the mountains, into the mountain plains, and you look around, it kind of looks like this, right? All right. So before I go into the farm, let's go around the perimeter, anti-clockwise. The first thing we note is that they've built this makeshift wall around the entire fence. What's happening here is that a militia with guns have taken over this farm and turned the farm into a militia base. So it's a military force or a paramilitary force that have occupied the farm. And part of the occupation, they've built this wall around the farm for, I guess, security reasons. Although if you look out there, there's basically no one. I don't know why they need to build a wall when there's literally nothing from here to the horizon. So I don't know what the wall, like nobody's sneaking in or anything except me. And in a way, this makes it more conspicuous than if you didn't build a wall. If you're trying to hide the fact that you're a militia group occupying the farm, if you didn't build the wall, it would look less suspicious, right? Anyway, they have built a makeshift wall, turned this place into a little bit of a fortress, but it's not that well defended. Outside there's some farm things, there's hay bales. I think we're in autumn. They've cut the hay and baled it. It's not entirely clear what this farm produces. Well, I mean, no, we do see some of the produce, but not the other stuff. Like, it's not entirely sure what they're growing in this field. Maybe just grass, just for the hay. Who knows, right? A lot of abandoned farm equipment. I don't know if that's normal. I don't think that's normal. Oh, right, you can kind of see it here. You see that? It says Fruit King, and it's got peaches. Not peaches, apricots, my bad. So this farm grows apricots, among other things. I don't know if it's just apricots. If it is, there's not that many apricot trees on the outside of the farm, at least. Some of this doesn't really make sense, but it's supposedly an apricot farm. Let me continue running around. Nothing too remarkable out here. In fact, most of this is just me saying how there's a whole lot of nothing. There are roads going in multiple directions though. So when we came into the map, there was a road out there, and now there's a road out here. There's kind of roads leading out in every single direction. And it's not entirely clear why, because this farm doesn't seem that important to have multiple roads leading in. Maybe these are just farm roads for the farm itself. But if that's the case, I don't see much farm out there, right? You see that? Are those fields or are those not? I can't really tell in the distance. Some of this might just be like decorative, they just didn't really think that hard about it. The tractor is not doing much at the moment. I guess we can look at the mountains in the distance as well. The mountains are a bit taller than in Colorado though. Colorado is a bit flatter than this. So the height of the mountains in the distance is a little exaggerated, I guess, for effect. Look a little bit more majestic than actual Colorado. I mean, there are tall mountains. I mean, taller mountains in Colorado. But I don't think there's this many of them. I might be wrong. I might just be looking in the wrong place on the map, right? And then we get to here, so we're like at the exact opposite point. We came in on the other side of the farm. And we have these guys just like looking at out there with the binoculars. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? What are they looking at? At the mountains? So they're supposed to be looking out for suspicious people, I guess. But there's basically nothing out there. It's just a whole lot of nothing all the way to the horizon. I don't know. I don't know why they need to guard this place so hard. Alright, continuing around, there's another main entrance, or a big entrance there, although we're at like the back of the farm.
Yeah, everything is good.
Right, another road that goes to the distance. And then we have a lake. Hey, that's a nice lake. Look at that lake. Look at the reflection of the mountain in the lake.
Greetings, sir.
A bit of a children's playground. Probably dangerous having this next to the lake. Like, you kind of worried about your kids drowning in the lake, aren't you? Probably shouldn't have your kids play there. We do get quite close to the water, and then we have a bridge. A covered bridge across the river, like that. So first thing I want to say is, the river seems quite close to the ground level. So if the river's right there, and the ground's right here, it means that the water table is very close to the ground surface, right? So the ground is constantly soaked in water, basically. It's a lot of mud. It's probably quite muddy underground. Also, if it floods, it very quickly floods the ground, right? The water only needs to rise a little bit, and then the whole place is just turned into a giant lake. Like, this whole place, it just gets completely flooded if the water just rises a little bit. So building like anything this close to the water table is probably a bad idea, just because it floods easily. But on the other hand, since we're on a farm, and you do want to grow things, so if you want to grow things that need a lot of water, maybe fruit trees that benefit from having a lot of water, then maybe you do want to grow it in a place with a high water table, so then your trees have a lot of water easily. So there's pros and cons. The issue is any structure that you build here will be sitting on soggy ground, and that's not necessarily good for any buildings, right? So that's something to keep in mind. You'll actually see more of this later on as we run around the farm. The covered bridge is interesting. So this is kind of iconic, right? I am not 100% sure of the history of covered bridges, but it looks like the idea is, or what happened was that they had people who knew how to build houses, but they didn't really have people who knew how to build bridges, and so they just built a house and use it as a bridge. And now, that might seem kind of strange to you if you're not familiar with the structural requirements of a bridge. You kind of need bracing. You kind of need diagonal bracing in the bridge. And this is actually not braced very well. And in fact, like the diagonal, so you have like a portal, like a square portal, but it will skew if it's not braced. So you put a diagonal thing in to brace it. But if you're building a bridge, you want to brace towards the center. So it's correct on this side, but it's not correct on the other side. So halfway across the bridge, those diagonals should change directions, because the bridge, the forces are strongest, or in the middle of the bridge, right? So the bridge kind of goes like that, and it tries to fall down, right? And to resist those forces, you need the diagonal bracing in a triangle in that shape. If your triangle is the wrong shape, it doesn't actually resist the forces. So to brace it properly, it needs to both sides. It should point towards the middle of the bridge. And so like whoever built this bridge, it's like they didn't understand how bridges work. And that's not too surprising if it's from a long time ago, right? Like, you know, back in the old days, people didn't necessarily get a formal engineering education. They just kind of built from experience. And if you didn't have any experience building bridges, you wouldn't know how to do it. But you knew how to build a house. So they built a house across the water. Building a house actually helps with the structure because the panels actually act as additional bracing. So you have the diagonal strut as bracing, but the panel, if it's like nailed in, the panel also serves as bracing to stop the bridge from skewing and falling apart that way. And so like those panels actually help the bridge keep its shape. And likewise, like even the roof is to stop the bridge kind of falling this way. But if you look at this, there's actually not much stopping the bridge from doing that. Right? There's only very small diagonal bits there stopping the bridge from doing that. It's actually not very good. So this bridge is structurally dubious, to say the least. And the roof and the walls actually help keep this thing intact and resist some of those forces. So the fact that the bridge has a roof and walls on it is not just it's not just for looks. It's in fact, it's kind of a weird bridge, right? Structurally, in engineering wise, there's a lot of stuff that's wrong with this. But there's enough bracing there to make it work, right? it's a bit of a disaster, to be honest, this bridge. Okay. Alright, let's get out of here. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is, it's a bridge built by somebody who doesn't know how bridges work. And the fact that it's got walls and ceilings help it stay together. Where otherwise it wouldn't stay together. Okay. Right, as we come around here, you see how the ground is waterlogged? You see how the water's kind of seeping out of the ground? So you know what I said earlier about the level of the river being very close to the ground? This is what I mean. The ground is just soggy and muddy, the whole thing, because the water is very close to the surface. Probably quite difficult to build anything on stuff like this. But again, if you're growing crops that need a lot of water, then this would be good for the crops. We have a little bit of a pier with boats. A small one, interesting. Oh, look at those mountains in the background, that looks nice, right? The sun back there? I don't know if this is like a famous mountain or not. I don't recognize it, but maybe it is. As we continue around, we have more abandoned farming equipment. There's a lot of abandoned farming equipment. I think this is sunk into the mud, this truck. And we have like a bit of a swamp here, look at that. There's a little pond and like tall grass. So this area is so waterlogged that it's literally turned into a swamp. But the trees are growing here. I don't know if they're okay or not. And then we like have like a bunch of tractors sunk in the mud. This seems like a disaster, to be honest. This looks like a disaster area, architecturally. And then there's this, look at this. There used to be a shed here. The shed is a little bit sideways because it's sunk into the ground because the ground's too soft, right? So this is what happens when the ground is too waterlogged and it's too soft and you try to build anything on it. The weight of the building causes it to just sink into the mud. This is the architectural implications of the water level being so close to the surface of the ground. And I find it very interesting that the map designers put this in here, and they knew to make it slightly diagonal, so they knew, like the people who designed the map knows that when you put a building on soft ground, it will sink in. So they put this here to say, yeah, we know it's what we're doing. So the fact that like this is a disaster area, basically, architectural disaster area, and it's a bad idea to build the farm or any farm buildings on soggy ground like this. Like they know, right? But they did it anyway, and they did this to tell you that yeah, no, we know what's going on. We know that the ground is unstable and it's a bad idea to build anything here. Okay, and then we're back at the front entrance. Let's go inside the farm and we'll go around counterclockwise as we usually do and look at the different areas inside the walled compound, right? So first up, we have what appears to be a junkyard, which I guess you always need some place to dump your rubbish. Seems kind of messy though. But maybe that's what happens if you're like out in the middle of nowhere and like where else would you put this stuff, right? You know, I'm a city person. I'm used to living in a place where, you know, a rubbish truck comes by every week and takes away the rubbish. And I live in a part of the world where I'm used to that if I just leave rubbish lying around, the government will come and give me a fine because I'm polluting the city, right? Whereas when you're out in the middle of nowhere, is this just what happens? You just kind of dump your rubbish in the corner of your farm and just not worry about it? Is that how you... Is this what happens? You do need to be careful about chemicals and metals leaching into the ground though, because you are growing crops. But I guess aside from that, yeah, maybe you just dump your crap somewhere when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Over here we have danger explosives. So these militia guys have set up a place to test explosives. Look at this. There's a safe, and they're trying to test to see whether the explosives will blow open the safe, is what they're doing. So they've got some concrete blocks. Oh, I wonder where they got the concrete blocks, by the way. Where they got these blocks from. I don't think they cast these themselves, so they would have brought them in from somewhere. I just don't know where you buy concrete blocks. Where do you buy pre-made concrete blocks like this? Did they order them? Did they have them made specially? Can you buy them off the shelf from a hardware store? Like how does this work? I'm not sure. It looks like they just stole it from some construction site. I mean, like a big construction company would have concrete blocks like this because they use them for things. I wonder where these guys got them. Right. We have a bit of a hay storage here. Oh, we haven't seen any animals, huh? There's a lot of hay, and I'm assuming this is for animal feed. But we haven't seen any animals yet. We have an observation station where they're testing the explosives. Right, the camera's there. Interesting. More hay storage. And then on the other side here, they've set up this temporary shelter where they are making bombs right here. Right, so there's a little explosives testing area. I wonder what this would have been for the farm. It looks just like a big empty patch of land. And aside from the hay storage, there seems to be nothing else here. So I don't know what this would have been for the farm. Okay, here we have a mechanics area. So this is kind of interesting. I don't think farms usually have an in-house mechanic. Maybe these guys do because they're the Fruit King apricots. Fruit King apricot business. But then this is not really a... I'm just trying to think. This farm by itself, from what we can see, is not enough to support a whole apricot company. So if there's like a Fruit King apricot company packing and shipping apricots, there would have to be multiple farms in the area. And so then this company buys all the apricots from all the farms and ship them out. And if there's like a company serving a whole bunch of farms, then it would make sense for at least one of the farms to have an in-house mechanic who then looks after all the machinery for all the farms, right? So what I'm trying to say is, like a mechanic on a single farm doesn't really make sense, but if the mechanic actually is serving a whole lot of different farms, and there's actually a lot of different people requiring machinery repairs, then that would make sense, right? So I guess this could make sense, but then when we're looking around the farm, it's just nothing as far as the eye can see. It's not like there's a whole bunch of farms in every direction in the distance. There are roads in every direction in the distance, and maybe that's what we're suggesting, is that, you know, you go down the road, there's another farm out there, and then there's more apricot trees. Maybe? Maybe. Over here we have a bit of a workshop. A bicycle, interesting. Fixing a bicycle, various tools, not too sure what they're fixing, but there's a lot of tools. Again, like, would you need this much work? Like a workshop this big? On a single farm, or are we serving multiple farms? On this side we have another farm building. And it looks like they're doing some operations planning here. Huh, interesting. There's a fridge. I guess this is like a rest area for the farm workers. Getting back out. So in the game, the story is that the militia is planning a sort of a heist, or is it a kidnap operation? They're gonna weld this thing onto the truck and they use it to ram another truck. And then they're gonna snatch a guy, apparently. Or maybe kill him. So that's the operation. And that's also why they need a mechanics workshop, because they're modifying trucks to do this project, right? So that's what they're doing. Did I check this? I mean, there's not much to see here. More mechanic stuff, more mechanic stuff. Right? Okay. And then back in this area, we have a slurry pit. A slurry pit, if you're not familiar, you basically take all the animal waste, poop that is, all the animal waste and all the other organic waste, and you dump it all in a giant pit. And over time, it stews, and then it turns into fertilizer over time. Now, as you might imagine, it smells pretty bad, and you really don't want to fall into a slurry pit. Falling into a slurry pit will get you killed if you don't get out of here very quickly. And it smells bad. Not only does it smell bad, it also produces toxic gases, so if you breathe too much of this, you might die. So slurry pits are pretty unpleasant, although necessary on a lot of farms. You probably wouldn't want to put it so close to your other buildings though, because you would smell it. It doesn't smell good. It doesn't smell good. And also you don't want to dump things in there. Look, there's appliances and barrels. A slurry pit is not a general rubbish dump, right? You should not dump other rubbish in the slurry pit. The slurry pit is very specifically for organic waste to turn into fertilizer. Like, you don't want to dump other things in here because it would mess up the fertilizer. So whatever's been happening here is wrong, and you shouldn't do that. And also, if it were me, I would put the slurry pit further away from the other buildings, so I don't have to smell it. I think this might be a video game restriction, though. As we say, the level, you can't make the level too big, right? The level has to be a certain size, and to fit everything into that space, sometimes you have to compress everything together to make sure they fit together. So maybe it's just a video game thing. I wouldn't put it this close to the other buildings. Okay, back to the mechanics area, and you'll notice that there's construction materials on the ground. Look at that. And back there, they've built a walkway up there and then onto the upper level of the barn. So that's not original to the barn, right? The implication is that the militia is gonna do some construction work, I guess. Also, these concrete blocks. So I was saying, like, where do they get the concrete blocks? I guess the same place they get the planks and the scaffolding. So they're bringing in construction materials. We don't see very much construction though. Maybe this is like a future or an ongoing project. We see some like temporary structures. We have like canvas roofs stretched out. We have farm machinery. Like, we see a lot of this stuff, a lot of temporary structures. And maybe this suggests that they're gradually gonna build more permanent structures here over time. You see that? There's like timber piled up there. Not sure what that's about. The next building is the iconic big red barn. Look at that. Hey, it's a big red barn. How iconic. Although architecturally not that remarkable because it's just a big empty space on the inside, right? Let's go inside.
Hello, sir.
Just a big empty space, although it does have a mezzanine level up there. Interesting. So the barn has been appropriated for operations training. So remember how I said they're gonna use the ram to ram a car and then do some kidnapping on VIPs? So they're gonna practice that here. The militia has turned the barn into a training area. And then here we have, I guess, the old barn equipment, but in this corner we have some weapons laid out. And oh, here you go. We have a diagram telling you what they're doing. Ramming van, driver, intel. Oh, they're gonna steal intel. Extraction. So they're gonna ram the car, get the intel, and then extract from the lead van. Interesting. So the meticulous planning. These guys are professionals. If we come back over here, we see these wheels, wagon wheels. And look at that on the wall, on the post. We have horseshoes. Remember how I said earlier that there was hay being piled up, but we didn't see any animals? At the very least, there are horses. Or there were horses on the farm. I don't think there are any horses now. No, there aren't any horses now. And if we come out here, we see those horse trailers, right? I think that's a horse trailer. You know, the trailers you use to transport horses. And I think this is like a yard for the horses to run around in. It's been appropriated and converted into a shooting range at the moment. But I guess this is where the horses used to be. Not sure the horses would need such a big slurry pit though, so unless there are other animals as well, the slurry pit might be a little too big. But who knows, right? So the scaffolding and the makeshift walkway comes up to the upper level of the barn and around there. So this is not original to the barn, this has been put up by the mercenaries, or by the militia. This though is original to the barn, I think, although I'm not too sure now that I look at it again. Is this original to the barn, or did the militia put this up as well? No, it must be original to the barn. I'm not sure. Maybe it is. Anyway, they've set up some bunks here. They've turned this into a little bit of a barracks. Up here, this guy's watching the front gate, but there's already people on the front gate watching the front gate. Why are yours? He's watching the people watching the front gate is what he's doing. Alright, so that's the barn. Not too much to say about it. This is just a big open space for horses. Getting back down, we'll run over this way. The next thing is the farmhouse. I guess the farmhouse is the most interesting part of the entire farm. Architecturally. Oh, look at that. So what is that? That, if I'm reading this right, is a Victorian style farmhouse. Victorian because of the big porch that goes around most of the building. You see that there? So there's a, on the outside wall there's like a covered walkway. That's the porch around the outside. And then you have these octagonal towers. Not every Victorian farmhouse has octagonal towers, but some of them do. And it's like a very distinctive feature with the really pointed roof. And another thing is the white weatherboard and slate roof. So that's very distinctive as well. So this is a fine example of a Victorian farmhouse. The time period is maybe late 1800s, late 1890s, early 1900s, I think, is the time period. Might be a bit more than that. Is there anything else to say about it? Not really. So that's the style from that period. Let us walk around. Oh look, there's more building material here. I think they're using these to board up the windows. Alright, let's go around. Oh, you'll notice that the farmhouse is built on elevated ground. Remember how we said earlier that the ground is soggy and prone to flooding. So raising the house up mitigates the flood risk, right? So now if you want to flood the house, the water has to go all the way to this level before it starts to touch the house. And even here, no, not even here. It has to get up to that level to flood into the house. So the house is substantially raised up to protect it from flooding. Ah, we know about this. So the map designers who designed this place, they know about this. Having said that though, so the house is kind of protected, but most of the other buildings are not. So if this place floods, all the other buildings are on low ground and they'll get flooded. I guess they're just like farm buildings, maybe they're not that valuable. I don't know though. I would be inclined to lift everything up, just to be safe. Because if you know there's a flooding risk, why would you not make the effort to try to protect all your other buildings too, right? I don't know. Maybe it will cost too much. Around here, a well? I'm not sure you would... I don't know if that water would be safe to drink. But we are out in the middle of nowhere. I'm guessing there's no... there's no central water supply. So maybe you have to drink well water out here. We see the porch goes all the way around to there and then it stops. The house is a little strange, actually. If you look at this, the house seems too long in this direction. It seems like the house really should stop there. But the house is stretched out. And I think they did this because, for gameplay reasons, they needed more space inside the house and they should just make the house bigger. In fact, if you look back here, the roof kind of seems to be too shallow. The angle of the roof is too shallow. I mean, if you showed me a house like this in the real world, I would almost suspect that this part of the house is an extension to the original, right? Like I would suspect that it was built in a different time. And in fact, or maybe it is, look at that. You see there's a seam here, look at that. You see that line there? And that line there, there's a seam on the house. Maybe this part is an extension. And that the original house ended there. You see that? Interesting. Although there's another seam here. So maybe not. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is the proportions of the house are a little bit strange, like a little bit atypical for a farmhouse. And if you like look at the roof. Look at the angle on that roof. Look how steep that is. And then look at the angle on this roof. And how steep that is. Like the angles are different. Which doesn't usually happen in a house. Like you would usually keep all the angles the same. Because when you're building a house, you're building the rafters, right? You would build the frame and you build the rafters. If they're all the same angle, it's easier to build than if all the angles are different, then you have to like do more work to build the different angles. So the fact that that angle there is different from that angle there suggests that this part is an addition. But I'm not 100% sure, right? I don't know. It does seem a little odd, this part of the house. And the fact that the porch doesn't go around, you would almost expect the porch to just go all the way around the whole house, or at least the majority of the house, because that's the Victorian style. I'm not sure what happened here. I don't know if... We'll come back to this. You know what, we'll just look into inside the house, and then we'll come back to this. We have a bit of a shed behind the house. Nothing remarkable to say about that. Except that there seems to be a water tank. And again, if we don't have a centralized water supply, you would want to store rainwater, I guess. But if you're going to store rainwater, you want to put this next to a big roof, and then have the downpipe bring the water from the big roof to the water tank. At the moment, the downpipe just goes into the ground, and so I don't know how you would fill this tank with anything. Usually the water tank is in a spot on the house where a big roof comes down and you kind of catch all the water from the roof. Over here we have... oh, this is cute. And then... children's play area. It's homemade. Yeah, a homemade children's play area. And a fancy little outdoor barbecue place. This is kind of fancy. It seems almost out of place. I mean, it is out of place for a house like this. It's definitely not built at the same time as the house. This is quite a modern thing. I mean, these chairs are also kind of modern. And quite incongruous with the Victorian style. You don't imagine... yeah, no, because this is plastic, right? You know, this is plastic. And this is modern. The modern styling. So I guess it means that whoever lives here added some amenities later on. Alright, let's get into the house and take a look around inside. In the front door, immediately walk into the staircase to the upper floor. I guess this is like the lobby or the entry hall. So in a lot of buildings, in a lot of houses, you'll find that the staircase is near the entrance. And the reason for having the staircase near the entrance is so that the path from the entrance to any particular room is as short as possible, right? So you go from here up the stairs into a room. You don't want to go from here through a corridor, through a room, through another corridor, up the stairs, through another corridor into a room. So you don't want to turn the house into a maze and where you take a long time to actually get to your room. So when you have like a centralized circulation, so like if you have like an entry and then the rooms radiate out from the entry, then the path from the entry to any particular room is as short as possible. Whereas if you have an entry and then you have like a hallway and then you have rooms along the hallway, so if you have to like walk all the way down the hallway to get to your room, that's kind of inefficient, right? Whereas if you have like the entry in the middle and then the hallway and then the rooms, then it's more efficient because the path to a particular room is shorter this way. You see how that works? So that's why typically the staircase is near the entrance so that the circulation is more efficient. It's not always the case, but it's usually the case. Just something you learn as an architecture student. Alright, around here we have bunks. It appears that the soldiers have turned this place into a bit of a barracks. Although they do have time to watch TV, that's nice. I think this used to be a kind of a lounge. Like, what would you usually use this room for? Some kind of a lounge, maybe a study, maybe, I don't know. Not too sure, could be anything. In here, this is definitely a kitchen, because we have the fridges and the stoves and the benches. Kitchen and dining, I guess, because the dining table is still here. Alright, so this makes perfect sense. And then here we have a kind of a back door, I suppose, or a side door. Behind the kitchen, we have a laundry. Like you see those washing machines there. So this is a little bit strange. Usually from the laundry, you would have a back door because you would take the laundry out and put them on the laundry line. I think they removed the back door from here for gameplay purposes. This is not the back door, this is a toilet, which is even more strange. You have to go through the kitchen, through the laundry to go to the toilet. Very unusual. Because sometimes you have toilet emergencies, right? And you want to get there as quick as possible. You don't want to. You don't want your toilet at the end of a maze if you're gonna have an emergency. So I think they moved the doors around for gameplay reasons to make it more difficult for you to sneak into the house. But practically speaking, you probably want to get into the toilet from here, from this side. And then the laundry, probably you want a back door to the backyard. Because you need to take the laundry out. And you wouldn't put the you don't want to take dirty laundry through the kitchen either. You see what I mean? Like you're cooking food here and then you just bring a pile of dirty laundry through here. That's very strange. So the layout of this is a bit strange. They might have just shoehorned things into weird rooms for gameplay reasons. Over here we have another room. Again, not too sure what this space would have been, like another lounge. Would this be the dining room? This could be the dining room, but they put the dining table there, and the kitchen's too big if the dining room's not in the kitchen. So it's like, I don't really understand what's going on. But they did turn this place, the militia have turned this place into an operations room. And they've put a fancy lighting setup here, look at that. Look at that lighting setup, isn't that cool? They didn't have to make it a hexagon, but they did. Very fancy. You do want a lot of light in an operation room because, one, you want to stay awake. You know, sometimes when you have a long operation, you want to stay awake, stay focused, so you have the bright light kind of keeping you awake. And also you need a lot of light to see things accurately, if you're like reading detailed maps and all that. So light is useful for any important work. Right, alright, so through here, I have another back door. So the back door is here. You would think that this should be the laundry then. You know what I mean? This one, they've set it up as a security room. There's a bunch of things lying around, and then there's a server room next door. They have servers. They're also doing computer crime, I think. The fireplace is here. The fireplace means that this should be the lounge. Right? Because usually you want to sit around the fire in the lounge. So if this is the lounge, should this be the dining? And if this is the dining, should the kitchen and laundry be here? And then the toilet? If that's the case, then is this superfluous? I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? I said earlier that it looks like the house has been extended and it's too big. And as we come inside, I'm trying to read like what are the rooms, and the rooms don't really make sense. What I think happened is they shoehorned the militia headquarters into the farmhouse. And honestly, there's too much stuff in the militia headquarters to all fit into one farmhouse. A farmhouse is usually not that big. And it just didn't quite fit, and then they had to like move things around to try to make things fit, and so then it doesn't make as much sense. I think is what happened. Like I mean, they tried to make it fit and it didn't really fit. Upstairs, we have a hole in the wall. Upstairs we have what used to be bedrooms, I believe. So we have like bedroom on one side and bedroom on the other. But if these are separate bedrooms, then there shouldn't be a door in between them. Because to get to the other bedroom, you would go out of your bedroom, down the hallway, and into the other bedroom. Not sure what that's supposed to mean, but I think this should be a bedroom. Although this bedroom would have a fireplace in it, which is also slightly odd. The militia have turned this into there's a green screen there, so I guess it's sort of like a recording studio. This is a 3D printer. And then here, a bunch of computer guys have set up their office in what used to be somebody's bedroom, probably. In fact, we can see... Sorry, do not bother here. I feel fine going green. And then we have a flag. I'm trying to see if... Are those cup noodles? Oh, there's a mattress there. I'm trying to see if there's any clues as to who used to live here. There's a toy car. Yeah, I'm trying to read the furniture to see who used to... What kind of person used to live here. I think this used to be a bedroom, not too sure. Around the hallway, this is weird. There's like an extra empty space here for no reason. You would expect the hallway to end here, and this to be the back room, like to be the third bedroom, bedroom. But instead, this is a hallway, and then this is the third bedroom. This is very odd. The shape of this room. There's a children's room here. It's a like tiny table. Posters on the wall, a bed, we have toys. So this used to be a children's room, but the shape of this room is kind of weird, right? It's like an L shape, and it's not obvious why that would be the case. You see what I mean? I think they had a farmhouse, and then they stretched it out because they needed more space, and then it didn't make sense anymore. I think that's what happened. This is a toilet. That's the second toilet in the building. Oh, the toilet's in the wrong place. I just noticed. The thing with toilets is they require plumbing. So usually toilets are on the outside wall of a house. And then the plumbing just goes straight outside. So you see the plumbing here, the poop. Where does the poop go? Always ask that question because it's important. Where does the poop go, right? The toilet down, out there and down. So if we're gonna follow the... So the toilet was there, right? It comes out here, the pipe. If the pipe doesn't come out, so here? Let's say it goes in the wall. It goes here, through in the wall, and then into the basement, but the basement, the pipe... There's no pipe here. There's that pipe, that's not the poop pipe. Because there's no connection upwards. Where does the poop go? You know, no, you know. Things you notice when you've studied architecture. So the toilet's in the wrong place. This really should be like... You know, toilets should be on the outer walls, and then outside the wall there should be the pipe, and that's easy, right? I think they kind of just shoehorned this into this room, and it doesn't really fit. Yeah, no, like I think they took a house that actually worked, and then they moved things around, and then it doesn't work anymore. Is what happened. We do have an upstairs balcony though. Look at that. That's kind of nice. Looking out over the farm. Horribly useful. And then on this side we have an office, I suppose. There's a desk. There's a really big sitting area. And then back there is the master's bedroom. Don't mind the bodies on the ground. It's a little odd. You would think that the master's bedroom is just a bedroom, but it's not. There's also a really big office. Like you would think it would just be a bed here, but it's not. I don't know what the sitting area is about. Again, I think this is gameplay related. So the thing is, if this was a militia base, the militia leader would want an office. I get that. But if this was a farmhouse, the farmer doesn't need this room. So again, I really think they tried to shoehorn the militia into the farmhouse. Try to make things fit, and it didn't fit. And then they changed the house, stretched out to make it bigger to make things fit. And then everything became strange afterwards. I think that's what happened. From the master's bedroom, we can go into the same toilet as before. So that's kind of nice. Kind of an ensuite, but also not. Another desk. Alright, so that's the farmhouse. That's been turned into a militia headquarters. It's a little strange. I don't... There's like a lot of strange bits and pieces here. Back down to the basement. Right. Mostly it's storage, as you would expect. Maybe not as much stuff in here as you would expect. The problem is, though, they can't put too much stuff in here because it is also gameplay. Back here we have somebody in an interrogation room. Look at that, he's being tied up. So there's more storage back there, right? Oh, you can't go in there, by the way. If this was a real basement, why would there be a window between two basement rooms? When you go into a basement, would you ever expect to find a window between two basement rooms? No, you wouldn't. So this is, again, they just shoehorn this thing in for gameplay reasons. That doesn't make any sense. Why would there be a window? But what they needed for gameplay purposes is an interrogation room. And so they're just gonna shoehorn that into here. Even though it really doesn't make sense. And you can't say the militia built it afterwards, because you can't just dig a hole under the house and not have the house fall down. Right? You can't do that. Like structurally, you don't do that. You structurally you do not just dig a hole right under your house. So yeah, no, I can't explain this. You can't explain this. Over here, look at that. There's like a security door. You do a face scan. And it opens. You can't tell me that this is part of the farmhouse, right? Why would a farmer have this? But inside here there's like a bunker. A secret bunker? With somebody scheming something complicated? Like, I mean, you can kind of imagine somebody having a like a prepper's cache, or like a bunker for emergencies. Some people do that, right? Some people are preparing for the apocalypse or something, and they just have a bunker in their backyard with food and stuff and guns stored in it. So you imagine some people might do that. The problem here is we're underneath the house, aren't we? Let me just check. Yeah, no, we're underneath the house. And again, you can't put this... You can't dig a hole right under your house, because everything's gonna fall down on you. You can, like, if you dig a bunker, you would do it beside the house, not right underneath it. And there's no way I can explain why a farmer would... Like, it would have to be here before the house was built, and the house is Victorian era, so it's 100 years old. Why would somebody have a prepper cache 100 years ago? No, they wouldn't. There's a lot of strange stuff in here that have been shoehorned into here for gameplay and narrative purposes. And don't really belong in the farmhouse. But I guess if you don't look hard enough, you wouldn't really notice. You really have to, like, look carefully and try to fit the farmhouse into the rooms to realize that it doesn't quite fit. Realistically, I think the farmhouse probably wouldn't be that wide. Like, it would end here, maybe even end there and have the porch go around, and then it would end like here and have the porch go around, or maybe end here and not have the porch go all the way around. But the house would not, like, just, it would just stop there. It would stop right there. It would stop right there. Maybe be thinner in this direction, doesn't have to be. And then you just fit all the functions of the house inside those rooms, and then it will be a farmhouse. So they stretched it out, put the militia base in, and then everything became strange. Alright, back out of the house. Over on this side of the farm we have an orchard. So this is where the apricot trees are, I believe. I don't know if they're all apricot trees. These are definitely apricot trees. Although you notice there's a really long grass here. I think this is to imply that the apricot trees really have been neglected for a long time. I think this means like how long does it take for grass to grow this long? Like 1 year? 2 years? At least 1 year, right? So the grass hasn't been mown for at least a year. Although there's still fresh apricots, is interesting. I'm not sure what to make of that. I don't know if that's an oversight. Or are we saying that these militia guys are still harvesting the apricots? I mean, I wouldn't blame them if they're just gonna... I mean, there's apricot trees here. You might as well harvest the apricots and eat them, right? So maybe the militia guys are still harvesting apricots. Because otherwise they wouldn't be fresh apricots. Apricots would have to last, what, a month at most before they go bad?
Did you see the moon last night?
So either the farmer never mowed the lawns, never trimmed the grass, and the militia hasn't been here for very long, or the militia have been here for a long time, and they're the ones continuing to harvest the apricots, one way or the other. Over here we have an outdoor kitchen and a mess area. The militia do need food, and this seems a decent size, although maybe I'm not sure if that's big enough. No, that's probably not big enough for all the militia guys. It's probably a bit too small. You have some planters, although these seem neglected. That doesn't seem too bad. A greenhouse, probably for probably like a nursery for saplings. Although there's like, what is that? Pine trees? What are those? Melons? No, what are they? Not sure. I would assume that you would grow saplings here, but there aren't actually any saplings. Interesting. Not sure what's going on. And then over this way... Oh, we have this building here. Fruit King, again. So this is the packing and distribution building for all the apricots. So you see this here? You pack the apricots in this building. Oh, they've been taken... It's been taken over by the militia for another barracks. They've set up another 6 cots here. But you would pack the apricots, put them in the crates, and then put them on the trucks and drive the trucks off. So that's the purpose of this building. This building is also raised up, and I guess resistant to flooding. Although raising it up mostly is so that you can put the crates on the back of the trucks more easily. I think this is also too small. It's not that, look, if you have a small farm and you produce a modest number of apricots every year, there's nothing wrong with that. My problem is that there's a lot of the trucks. There's a Fruit King truck and there's a Fruit King branded building. And for the company to have like branded trucks and buildings, it needs to be a pretty big company. It just doesn't seem like this building produces enough apricots to pay for the branded trucks and buildings. You see what I mean? So unless there's other farms, also Fruit King farms elsewhere, then the operation would be big enough in scale for this to make sense to me. And maybe there is. Who knows? Out here we have more fruit trees, I think. Not sure what these trees are. And then we have another shed, and then we're back into where we started, the main entrance. Nothing remarkable about the shed. More farming stuff. Alright, and that's the entrance.
Keep our eyes open, buddy.
So we've been through the entire farm, right? Yep, and we've looked at everything. Honestly, architecturally, it's not that remarkable. The only slightly remarkable thing architecturally is the farmhouse. And even that, it looks like it's kind of, I don't know. It looks like they really messed it up. And in fact, you know, looking around, I don't think there are enough beds. I don't think there are enough toilets. I don't think the kitchen's big enough. Just given the number of militia dudes hanging around. And remember, I've killed like half of them. To clear out the space so I can do this architecture tour in peace, I've killed half the people. There are a lot of militia dudes here. And from what I've seen, there's not enough facilities to support that many people on this farm. And maybe with the construction materials, I would imagine to support a militia this size, they would have to like build more buildings, build barracks, build a bigger kitchen, more toilets, more showers, lockers, armories, training facilities. Like, there's not anywhere near enough of that stuff on this farm at the moment. And I really feel like they wanted to put the militia in the farm. Okay, I get that. But then they didn't want to change the farm too much because they want to retain the spirit of the farm or like the flavor of the farm. So it's still mostly a farm. There's the farmhouse, there's the barn, there's the fields, there's the orchards. So it's still a farm. They haven't turned the thing into a military base. But they really need to turn the place into a military base because there's too many dudes here. And it wouldn't work otherwise. And they can't shove everything into the farmhouse. Maybe the hacker guys needed to be separated from the militia leader. And like instead of trying to fit all of that into the farmhouse, they could have the farmhouse and then a separate building where the hackers are. That would make a lot more sense because the farmhouse, as I said earlier, like a lot of the spaces seem in the wrong place or they kind of stretched out, and or they don't seem to fit right. So I think they tried to like fit everything in there and it didn't quite fit, so they changed the building and then it didn't really make sense anymore. Like even here, the roof, that seems too tall, doesn't it? That seems too tall? So maybe the house used to be thinner and so the roof wouldn't go up as high? I don't know. There's a lot of strangeness here. And I guess if you don't look too closely, you wouldn't notice. But if you do look as closely as I just did, then you do notice it. Yeah, I wish I didn't look so closely. I'll be honest. Before I looked so closely at this map, I thought it was okay. But now that I look more closely at it, it's really not okay, is it? Oh well. I guess that happens. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, let's go ahead and assassinate our targets real quick. And I guess we'll get out of here. Is that all I want to say? I guess that's all I want to say. At the start of the video series, I talk about how Hitman is about assassinating rich people in fancy exotic locations. This farm is not a fancy exotic location. It's a location. It's not very exotic, right? I wish it was. I wish we were somewhere else. The map designers seem to understand flood risk, right? They put the water really close to the ground, but then they put the sunken building over there at the swampy ground, and then they raise the farmhouse. So they understand that. That's interesting. It's interesting that, you know, they're thinking about this stuff, right? But yeah, I think in hindsight, I would have made it so that the militia guys had just built more buildings and turned this place into more of a military base and less of a farm. Because you don't really need to retain the farm. If you retain the farmhouse and some of the barns, and even if there's like more buildings, like imagine like if, remember the junkyard in the corner there? And a lot of these apricot trees, they could have like removed the trees and put like a bigger building there. And then the junkyard in the corner, they could have just cleared the junkyard and put a bunch of barracks there. And if they just did that, gave themselves more space, more building space, so then they can take the hackers out of the farmhouse and just have a more coherent farmhouse, maybe that would have been better, right? Even though it would look less like a farm and more like a military base, the farm elements would still be here and you would still recognize them. And the military base would make more sense. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, I'm not the game designer, so that's just my opinion, right? Alright, let's get out of here. The next video, we're going to Japan. Alright, I need to murder these guys. Oh, there you go.
Nicely done, 47.
Nicely
Two
done.
flies with one swat. Ezra Berg has been eliminated. Good work,
In the
47.
next video, we're going to a hospital in Hokkaido, Japan. Now that's an exotic location. Hokkaido is quite nice. Famous for snow, if you like snow. See you in Japan.